and I read it. And for 2 months, from sun up to sundown, I read the Bible. I went to every small group. I went to every Bible study. I asked questions. I took notes. I stayed in the chapel. I didn't have a job. I stayed in the chapel listening to pastors. I stayed in godly counsel. In about 2 months, I got frustrated. I got angry at God. And I remember crying. And I'm like, I'm at the point of packing my stuff and going back to gangbanging because it's not happening. I still feel like I'm in bondage. I still feel like I'm in prison, but now instead of physically, I'm mentally bounded in my mind. I have so much self-hatred, so much unforgiveness. I hate looking at the man in the mirror. I don't even walk by the mirror. I walk in the mirror, and I'm free from prison, but I'm still in bondage in my mind. Like I have anger, bitterness, want to do good, but evil's right there. It's like my spirit man is at war with my flesh man. Like I was at war and didn't even know why I was at war, but I realized it's a spiritual warfare that we don't fight against flesh and blood. We fight against principalities. The devil was mad.
Brian,
Hmm.
uh, thank you so much for your time, and we want to know where are you from, how you grow up, and how life look like before you meet Jesus.
Yes, yes. So I'm definitely here today because of the prayers of the righteous, because you reap what you sow, and I'm actually reaping the benefits of what my mom was sowing 25 years ago. I'm actually living on the prayers of my mom before I was even born, because I love how Jeremiah says, "For I knew you before your mother's womb," and the doctors told my mom she would never have kids. And my mom spent a lot of hours of weeping and crying out to God and spending money and hours going to the doctors. Doctors said, you're never going to have kids, Mr. LaCroix. That's just sorry, you're not. And then my mom kind of like accepted that. And then the grace of God, my mom finally got pregnant. And when my mom got pregnant when I was 3 years old, my dad left her. So now my mom, being a housewife, not being the breadwinner of the house, my dad being the breadwinner of the house, he ended up leaving my mom with no education, with no money, and now with a 3-year-old son who she prayed for. And then she finally got the answer to prayer. And it's like, man, like, why is all this happening? So then my mom's faith being tested. But we know that Genesis 50:20 says, what the devil turned to harm is God always turns everything into good, right? And that point in time, not that things got better. My mom had to deal with a sort of good mom would do. She had to go to work, and to provide for that, she had to put herself through school. So my mom going to work and to school, my mom was never home. So by the time I was old enough, I jumped off the porch and started running the streets. Didn't start off running the streets. I started off as an average kid playing hockey. And I walk into school with a hockey bag and seeing these gang members on the side of the street and passing by them every day. Eventually, I crossed to the other side of the street and started walking closer to them. And they said things to me and got into like a relationship of getting to know them every day. And they asked me if I wanted to make some money. And that started my of selling small like marijuana or small drugs here or pills there, selling drugs in the high school, nothing real bad, just doing small crimes, that led into like home invasions, the carjackings, and they asked me if I wanted to join to be a full-fledged member of the Unforgiven, and then I did. About 14 years old, I was full in, and I got my first felony, discharging a firearm into an occupied dwelling, going to prison for my first time. And when I went into prison, I met a man for the first time named Sandman. And he said, they called me Firecracker at that time. They said, Firecracker, there's two people in the world. You got victims and you got victimizers. Which one are you going to be? And then me, not having a father figure, and this man who seemed like he had everything together. He's respected by the streets. He had money. He had drugs. Like he was respected in the prison gang. I wanted to be Sandman. So I said, well, I'm going to be a victimizer just like Sandman. So I set my life off idolizing this man, Sandman, and did everything the gang asked me to do. Committing crimes in the penitentiary, extortion, became the best gang member I knew how to be following the gang that I was already a part of. But in the prison life, the gang's a little different because you're counted in there. So there's more violence. There's more watching your back. So I became aware of the lifestyle I was living. I got out and I hit the gang hard. Whatever they asked me to do, wanted to steal a car, sell drugs, trafficking. I did whatever they asked me to do. I just went on my life just being the best gang member I could be because I wanted acceptance. I didn't really know acceptance because I wasn't accepted in my house because I was the only person in my house. So I was doing to try to make them want me. And then when I did good, they would give me money or let me borrow their car. When I did bad, they would beat me up. I would get a violation. So I thought at a young age that love was earned. I was trying to earn their love. So I never wanted to make a mistake. So I went out of my way to be the best drug dealer, the best gang member. I wanted to be the best so that I could feel that love that I was searching for. And it realizes that the love I was looking for was a conditional love. If I didn't do what they wanted me to do, they didn't love me the way I thought they would love me. I would get a violation. So I did everything they asked me to do. That led me to 4 times in the penitentiary. Went to prison for my third time, 15 years at that time. I got out, came back, and about 180 weeks later, something like 190 weeks later, I'm right back in front of the same judge, and the judge is reading off my entire past, and I'm smiling on the inside because as a gang member, when the gang hears the crimes I'm doing, you get more fame, you get more street credit, you get people know your name, like you become almost street famous, and that's what I was looking for my whole life was that acceptance. So I didn't care that I was going back to prison because that's normally what I did my whole life from 12 years old all the way to 30. I've been out of prison my whole life. I've done 15 years right now. So prison life really didn't seem no different to me. The only difference is I went to bed at 10 o'clock in prison. On the streets, I barely ever went to bed. So there was really no different. In prison life, a non-gang member is dangerous. But being a gang member, it's really not that dangerous because you're the one committing all the crimes. So going to prison, I wasn't scared of going to prison. I was scared of letting down the gang. That's how twisted the devil had me. I was so in utter darkness, chasing things that never fulfilled me ever. You know, the Bible says you gain the whole world and lose your soul. I'm chasing for things that end up apprehending me in a prison cell. And as I'm reading there, and as I'm sitting there, and the judge is reading off my past, I'm smiling. And she said, Mr. LaCroix, your ACC is 40 years. Said, you mean 40 years? Like I'm thinking like I'm going back to prison for like 5, 6 years, maybe 8 years. That's what I did as a gang member, is I spent more time in the penitentiary on the street, but not realizing that now I'm a habitual career criminal with gang ties. Said, Mr. LaCroix, you're a menace to society. You had your ACC now, but my ACC means that my bare minimum of what my charge carries is 40 years. I got charged with four first degree sales and possession of fentanyl. So I was selling drugs to an undercover cop. Now, those are 4 offenses of first degree. So that gets me a habitual career criminal because I've already been to prison 3 times, not realizing that now I'm a habitualized criminal and now all my points are now enhanced. So I start acting crazy, like in the courtroom, like, what do you mean, like 40 years? Like, I'm thinking like 5 or 6 years, because that's what I did. 5 years here, 3 years here, 2 years here, no big deal. But now it's like reality is kicked in. I feel like I got punched in the stomach. Like, 40 years? What do you mean 40 years? My lawyer's like, be quiet, be quiet. I'm like, what do you mean be quiet? That lady just told me 40 years. So I start acting up in the courtroom, and the bailiff comes and escorts me back to my cell. And by this time, I have an STG file, which means that's a security threat group, which means I'm a ranking gang member of a violent gang. So they isolate me from the population. When you're a violent gang member with an STG file, you don't get put with the same population. So now I'm in isolation, which is called the shoot, segregated housing unit, and that's where they put all the violent gang members that have some ranking. And the cops can see my face, and my face shows that I'm a ranking gang member. So now I'm isolated. So I go back to my cell, and I'm just looking around, and I'm like I can't even hear. Like my stomach hurts. I feel dizzy. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like oh my God, like I might spend the rest of my life in prison. Like reality is really kicking in for me now. Like this is not a 5 year bid. This is not a 10 year bid. This is a life sentence bid. Like what have I done to myself? And so I sat down in my bunk, and for the first time in my whole life, I started crying uncontrollably. Let me tell you, as a gang member at 12 years old, if you got caught crying or showing emotions, you would get beat up. I would get a violation. So I was taught at a very young age, men are the tough guys. We don't show emotions. If you have an emotion, you push it down with drugs, with alcohol, with women, whatever you got to do. Men do not show emotions. We do not cry. So the feeling I was feeling, I've never even felt before, but I felt so hopeless. I felt so lost. And now I'm like, so I remember crying uncontrollably. I remember saying to myself, man, I'm not a bad person. And the voice in my head said, yes, you are. I said, but I have a wife and I have a son. And the voice said, you're an absent father. You're an abusive husband. I used to beat my wife. I used to justify why I would never come home. I would justify why I was selling drugs to put diapers and food in my kid's house. But I was so twisted by the word, by the word and the devil that I was justifying what I was doing, but I wasn't even paying bills. I wasn't even putting food on the table. I wasn't buying diapers. I was using that money to go gambling, to go have sex with women, to go do drugs, to go gambling and buy hotels with me, buy cars. Like I was justifying what I was doing because I was a father, not a wife at home. But I was so entangled in the lie of the world, the lie of myself, that I'm justifying what I'm doing, selling drugs that are killing people, but didn't care that those drugs were killing people because I justified selling illegal drugs because I was feeding my family, which was a lie. I wasn't feeding my family. There's multiple times I came home and we had no lights. My kids didn't have diapers. My wife was hungry and yelling and she was dirty. And it's like all that is rushing in. Like the reality of like, Bryan, you said the lifestyle you're living, but you are a dressed up trash can. Like you look like had it all together, but on the inside, I was tore up. Like I was miserable, like but justifying with the drugs and the alcohol, and all this is rushing in. And I'm like, man, so I start just crying uncontrollably. So I get on the phone and I call some of the gang members that I've known since the sandbox. They said, Fry Cracker, don't worry, man, we got you. We're gonna get you a lawyer, we'll get you canteen money. Man, you don't worry about nothing. So now I go back and I'm feeling a little better. I wait about 2 days, I don't hear no letter, I don't see no lawyer or nothing like that. I get back on the phone and all the phone numbers I've known since my whole life, they changed the phone number on me. Every single one of my, I'm gonna cry. Every single one of my friends, everybody I've known since Sandbox, I've done unspeakable crimes for this gang. And when I really needed somebody to have my back, somebody to talk to, somebody just to tell me it was going to be okay, everybody changed their phone number on me. I couldn't get a hold of not one person. I've known these people since I was 12 years old, and nobody answered the phone on me. So I come up like, what's going on? Maybe they're trying to block me. I thought maybe my phone's not working. Like I'm playing all this in my head. Like, no, my homeboys didn't leave me. They got my back. Like I'm still lying to myself, still not seeing clearly, and I finally bite my pride and I call my mom. My mom don't answer the phone. So I go back and I'm just another darkness. Like I really just want to die. Like I can't eat. I can't sleep. I have so much anxiety and fear and worry and self-hatred. I'm sober. I hate who I am. Like I'm like, man, Bryan, this is your life. Like you can't even get nobody to answer the phone. Like you got exactly what you wanted. You got a casket for your prize. Like I've accomplished nothing in my whole life. My whole life, the gangbanging, the drug dealing, the money, the women, it came down to a prison cell that I may never ever leave. And I'm going through all this and I'm just like life is just miserable. I finally get a hold of my mom and mom's like, Bryan, what do you want? I said, Mom, I need help. She's like, Bryan, I can't help you. She's like, you're exactly where you need to be. She's like, Bryan, I prayed for you. I was like, and now I wish I never had you. Like, man, like my mom was my best friend. Like no matter what I did, my mom always had my back. She always gave me canteen money when I went to jail. She used to give me $100 a week. She would always write me letters. She would send me self-help books. She'd send me Jesus books. Like she would send me these things, which I didn't read. I threw them in the garbage. But like the one person, no matter what the words said, what the newspaper said, that was my mom who always loved me. She always saw the best in me. And now my best friend is saying, Bryan, I wish I never had you. Like, you are a hindrance to my life, to your son's life. Don't call here again. You made my life miserable. You've hindered my entire life. I have anxieties and fears and worries. I prayed for you. You're exactly where you need to be. And she hung up. And that broke me. That that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was the point where, man, this is a really reality. Like I gave up my marriage and my kids and my mom and society to follow a gang, to follow a street code that when I needed that street code to help me, there was nowhere to be found. And I got in utter darkness and I got in the deepest, darkest anxieties and fear and just wanting to die that I said, you know what? I'm just gonna kill myself. So I got a sharpened toothbrush and I shoved it down and I stabbed myself in the wrist, trying to cut my wrist with a toothbrush and then bleeding out. And then guards came and got me and put me in the total sue, and now I'm on a suicide watch, and so just now I'm like I'm in such utter darkness that I'm so broken, I'm so lost, like I have no hope, and I'm just crying, I'm crying, and I just want to die. And I remember at that darkest part of my moment out there, I remember what my mom said. She said, "Brian, you need God." And I'm like, man, I need God. I remember saying that, and I did the first thing in my whole life. I got on my face and I cried out to a God I did not believe in. I cried out to the God of my mom. I said, God, the God of my mom, the one that my mom prays to, the one that my mom been telling me about for 25 years, the God that I need God, I need to change my life. Jesus would change my life. And I didn't pay attention. And now I'm at the point where I have nothing and I have nobody and I want to die. I have an unsuccessful suicide. My mom hates me. She gave up on me. My son's gone. My wife is gone. I have absolutely nobody in my whole life. So I started crying out to a God that I did not believe in. Didn't even know if I was praying right. Didn't even know if someone like me, if God would listen to somebody like me. Like I've done unspeakable crimes. I've hurt people physically, financially, spiritually. I stole from everybody around me. I stole from loved ones. I stole from family members. Like I was a horrible person. Like, is this God that my mom prays to that time about is he really gonna help me? So I started praying to God, like really praying for God. I started doing those foxhole prayers, like, God, if you just come and help me out, I'll stop being a gang member. I'll stop cussing and womenizing. I'll stop committing crime. I'll go to church. I'll read the Bible. We're getting that tight spot, right? We're getting that foxhole spot, right? We're giving God all these false promises, right? Knowing that if I get out of the situation, I'm not gonna change, man. I'm giving these false promises, like I was a master manipulator, like I was a liar. So I'm trying to manipulate myself to God. Like, God, if you just help me get out of here. But I know my mom prays you. She said that you're a miracle worker, that you can save me. And I'm praying to God and I'm praying to God. And no, it ain't working. There's no bright light. Nothing's changing. I don't hear God's voice. And like I'm miserable. I hate life. And my lawyer finally comes. He said, Miss LaCroix, your evidentiary hearings come up. They're offering you 40 years. You can take these 40 years or you can go to trial. If you go to trial and lose, you're gonna get life. I was like, well, I'm guilty. She's like, yeah, I seen your paperwork. I was selling drugs to an undercover cop for 2 years from Florida to Las Vegas. I was trafficking fentanyl from Florida. I was picking up in Florida and I was traveling it all the way to Las Vegas, picking up the money and then bringing it all the way back. But the person in my car, he portrayed himself to be a gang member and he was actually a DEA agent, undercover cop. I didn't know he was a DEA agent. So as I read my discovery, I'm 100% guilty, 100% guilty. Like I can't beat these charges. I'm red-handed. I'm on camera, passing drugs. Like I'm guilty. And she's like, well, if you go to trial, it's going to be 100 grand. I said, well, I don't got 100 grand. I got $11,000 in a Nissan Altima. She's like, well, that's not enough to go to trial. She's like, you're going to need more money. I'm like, I don't have more money. So then she quits my case and says, you need a public defender. So now I'm facing life with a public defender. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do? Like, I got $11,000. I need $100,000 to go to trial. So now I go back to my cell and I still have nobody. I have no mom. I have no family. I have no friends. I have no lawyer now. So I finally keep calling my mom, call my mom, call my mom, call my mom. She said, Brian, what do you want? I said, Mom, I really need your help. She's like, Brian, I have to forget about you. She's like, your lifestyle is hindered my entire life. I stay up nights and weeks and months on end crying out to God for God to help you. She's like, it's hindering my walk. I'm not even trusting God. So mom said, I've already given you to God. I said, Mom, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean you giving me to God? She's like, I have to trust God for you. She's like, Brian, I have to forget about you for my health. Your lifestyle is hindering my health. I got high anxiety. I'm on pills. I'm taking all this. I got anxiety. I can't work. I can't do enough. I'm like realizing like my life has hindered my mom's life, and it shouldn't be that way. Like I should be a joy to my mom because my mom prayed for me. But my lifestyle didn't realize that my actions wasn't just hurting myself, it was hurting my loved ones. And I didn't even know it. I was so blinded by the things of the world. I was so blinded by the veil that I didn't see the truth right standing in front of me, that my lifestyle was not only hindering me, but my entire family. My mom said, Brian, I've already given you to God. I have to trust God for your soul, not even for your flesh. I have to trust God for your eternal life. And the only way I can do that, I have to hand you over. Even though I prayed for God for you, and then you gave me, and you were a hindrance my whole life, I've given you back to God. And that point right there was the hardest conversation of my life. And she hung up the phone. And I went back to my cell and I got in the biggest, darkest hole of my life of depression, suicidal. And I said, all right, God, and if you're real, if you are really all truly real, you truly are the God that my mom prays to, that my mom believes in, I'm asking you right now, I need you to come into my life sentence. I said, I no longer want you to take me out of my situation. I said, God, I need you to come into my situation right now and help me get through another day. If I gotta spend my whole life in prison, I don't want to be suicidal. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be bitterness. And if you are real, if you are the God that my mom is praying to, that my mom believes in you, then I need you to show me. I need you to show me. I need you to change everything about me. Because if I gotta spend the rest of my life in prison, I still want to be a father to my son. I want to be a father to my, even if I got to raise my son through the prison fence, through a phone call, through a computer, I want to be something more than what I am right now. But how can I act? How can I show my son not to be a violent gang member if I start acting, looking, and talking like a violent gang member? I have to change everything about me. So I got on my face and I surrendered my whole life to God that day. I said, God, I believe that you're real, and I'm asking you to come live in my life, and I'm asking you to change everything about me. And I prayed that prayer over and over again. I prayed over and over again. I finally get a hold of my mom again. Mom said, okay, Brian, I'm going to find you a lawyer. I said, but I'm telling you, you cannot call this house no more. I really, your lifestyle is hindering me. I'm going to do this one last favor. I'm going to try to find you a lawyer, show me how much money you have. So I gave my mom all my money. I gave my mom the vehicle. She sold my Nissan. She gave this lawyer about $14,000. I don't see a lawyer. I don't know what's going on, but I'm talking to God. Like I'm talking to God. Like I'm still angry and bitterness, but that suicidal spirit is coming off me. I no longer want to kill myself. I now want to live so for my son. I want to be a good influence for my son. I want to show him this is not the lifestyle to live. So I got to change the way I am. So asking God to really come and live in me, to change everything about me, even if I spend the rest of my life in the prison cell. Um, the lawyer comes and knocks on my window. She said, Miss LaCroix, come on out. It's like I went over your case and your case doesn't look good. I don't recommend you go to trial. I said, well, yeah, I'm guilty. She said, well, what do you want to do? She's like, they're offering you 40 years. I said, maybe who takes 40 years? Who takes life? So as I'm sitting there, I don't know, contemplating, she said, well, I'm going to go over some of your cases. And I have my case file right here. And she's going over my case file, going my case file about a year. And now remember, I'm in that cell for a year. I shower in there, I eat in there. The only time I leave that cell is I'm shackled from my room to the courthouse. I'm shackled hands and shackled feet. I shuffle all the way to the courthouse, come back. I don't ever leave that cell. And just crying out to God. Still don't even think if God's even hearing people like me. It's like I don't really know God. I just know the God of my mom. I don't really know the God of the Bible. I don't know really nothing about God. I've never read the Bible. I just know my mom said, Brian, you need God. And I'm like, man, this time I really do need God. I need God to come into my life so I could just get through another day, get through another day. I'm about 12 months in a cell, smaller than this office right here. And my lawyer comes and knocks on my window. She's like, Miss LaCroix, I need you to come out. I'm like, man, where have you been? She said, just come out. We come out and we sit at a table like this and I'm shackled. She has this stack of paper and she's looking through it. She pulls over and she's like, I found a statute called 3.13 called stacking charges in the state of Florida. I said, what does that mean? She's like, well, you were breaking the law. The DA was breaking the law. I said, well, how were they breaking the law? He said, because you were selling drugs to the undercover cop, you were selling the exact same amount or the month or the amount every day for the same amount. It's called stacking charges. If you would have sold them heroin one day and fentanyl another day and crack another day, but you sold fentanyl, the same fentanyl every month, every week, it's called stacking charges. They have to take you to jail on the first sales. They can't stack you with these 37 felonies. They can only stack you with the one. So we can beat these ones, but we can't beat this one. I said, what does that mean? She's like, I don't know. We're gonna go talk to the DA. So I come back and I'm like, man, like Like, are they gonna let me out? Am I gonna beat these charges? Like, I'm like, man, I'm like overwhelmed. Like, man, what's going on? So I go back to my cell and I don't see my lawyer for about, I say about a month or so. She comes back, she listens, I talk to the DA. The DA says that they'll offer you 180 months. I said, what do you mean? She's like, if you sign guilty, even though you can beat the charges in trial, besides that one, if you sign guilty and you give the DA a conviction on the charges, you give you 180 months. They'll give you 15 years. I'll be 65 years old when I get out. I said, man, I'll take it. I'll take it right now. She's like, hold on, they got to do paperwork. They got to do evidential hearings. They got to light this thing up. But you want to take 15 years. I said, I will take 15 years right now today. I'll be 65 years I'll be 65 years old when I get out. And I go back to my cell. I'm like, man, like that's a miracle. Like life to 40 to 15 years. I'm like, man, that's why I gotta, that's like God did that. Like God really did that. And I'm sitting in my cell and I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. Like I'm like, man, like it's a light. And then tell me, like I could still be a father to my son, even though 65 years old. That's not that old. I'm talking to myself and like, man, 65 years, that's old. That's good, man. Now I'm just waiting for them to come back with the paperwork. I'm ready to sign it, man. I got my pen, man. I'm ready to sign it. Next thing I know, I hear about this corona. And people are dying. People walking around with masks on their face. They're pushing food through the beam flaps. Like nobody's going to court. No one's seeing their lawyers. People got masks on. People are dying. I have no newspaper. I have no TV in my cell, so I have no idea exactly what's going on in the world. All I know is there's some epidemic and people are dying. But this time, about 14 months in my cell. Now, again, I'm in a cell myself. I never leave that cell. I've been isolated for 14 months by myself, evaluating myself and have I had anger at one point in time, but that anger turned to shame and the guilt and self-hatred and unforgiveness. So I'm still dealing with myself. Like I can't even look in the mirror to shave. I got to shave the other way. And so as I'm going there, I don't see my lawyer about 14 months, 15 months. All I know is everybody's dying. People got this corona thing. I have no idea what the corona is. People got masks on. So now I start having anxiety. I start having fear. I have start having worry. I'm like, man, I'm gonna die in this prison cell before I even make it to court. And so after a while, my lawyer comes and knocks on the door and says, Miss LaCroix, I need you to come out. I said, man, where have you been? She's like, don't worry, come out, come out. I got good news. I'm like, how many better news can you have, man? I'm ready to sign these 15 years. I'm ready to get up the road. I'm ready to get my life on track. She's like, just come on. And we sit back down again. She's like, listen, the jail's overpopulated. Prison's overpopulated. There's a huge epidemic. They need space in these jail cells. I said, okay, what are you trying to tell me? She said, they're going to give you a Corona deal. And that's what it says in my paperwork. It says a Corona deal in my minutes. I said, what is a Corona deal? She said, if you sign today with no evidentiary hearing, that means you don't try to fight nothing. You sign guilty for the 37 felonies that they charge you with. They'll give you 60 months today. You'll be on your way back to prison. At that point in time, I knew that all I did was ask God to come into my situation. Nothing changed on paper. My paperwork still says 37 felonies. It still says trafficking charges. I still have all these violent charges. But now, instead of having life, I now have 5 years. I said, man, I'll take it. I signed that paperwork, and then 2 weeks later, I'm heading back to the penitentiary. But here's the thing is, I'm going back into the penitentiary, a active gang member. I have gang tats all over my face. When I go into the penitentiary, the gang I'm associated with, they're going to want me to commit crimes. They're going to want me to extort. They're going to want me to do drugs. But I don't want to do those things no more. I know I have another chance at life. I know that I can't go back to doing those crimes no more. Not only am I can't, I feel something's different inside me. I no longer have that desire to want to hurt people or to commit crimes or do drugs no more. Like I don't know what it is, but I know something inside me has different. That those last 18 months of praying to God has done something inside me, and I'm not sure what that actually is that time, but I know that God says that He comes near the brokenhearted. And I was so broken and I was so lost that God came to me at my darkest hour. In the worst moment of my life, it became the greatest moment of life. Because when I finally surrendered my life to God, saying, oh God, let your will be done. If I can spend the rest of my life in prison, then so it be it. But I need you to do it with me. I know that's when God heard the prayers of the righteous because I was praying with a real heart that day. I wasn't praying with no mouth service. I wasn't giving God no false intentions. I said, God, okay, I deserve to be in the penitentiary. penitentiary the rest of my life, but I need you to come do it with me because I want to be something than what I am right now, and I need you to come and change me. And I believe everything in the Bible from Genesis to the maps. And God says, I come near the brokenhearted, and that when you cry out with your whole heart, I will find you. And James 4:8 says, when you come near to me, I will come near to you. So I know when I changed my prayer from mouth service to my heart was broken that I really sinned against God. Stop sinning against it. God said, now I'm still going to punish you because your crimes deserve crime, but I'm now going to give you another chance to life. I'm going to entrust you with a testimony. But now here's the true testing. I'm going to put you right back in the situation, right back in front of your homeboys, the ones that give up on you, the one percenters that no longer want. I'm going to put you in front and see if you really changed. I believe that. I didn't know that now, but I believe that now, that God put me right back where I was hanging out with, right back in the penitentiary and wanted to see what I was going to do. And I hit that prison yard and I ran into some of the gang members that I've known. And they gave me the rundown. Just to say, hey, this is who we're extorting. This is who's bringing drugs in. They offered me some drugs. And I came up with excuses why I didn't want to get high. I came up with excuses on why I didn't want to commit crimes no more. I said I didn't feel good. I'd make excuses. I didn't make my bed. So in the penitentiary, if you don't make your bed, they put you in the box for 15 days, for 15 days. So I stopped making my bed. I was purposely getting myself in trouble because I didn't want to hang out with the gang no more. I was trying to separate myself from them. And they started catching wind. They started saying, man, something's wrong with Firecracker, man. Like he's acting different. There started being some rumors. And a good friend of mine that I've known my whole life, he said, Firecracker, man. He said the gang is talking behind your back. They're getting very worried. They think you're a snitch. They're saying all that. I'm like, man, here's my paperwork. Like I'm still like in the world, but trying to live for Christ, but don't really know how to. Like I don't know any godly people. I don't know the scripture. I don't know the Bible. All I know is the gang life, but I know I don't want to do it. And I know that I don't want to hang out with them no more because the Bible does say that bad company corrupts good character. I didn't know at that time, but I knew the spirit inside me said, those are the people that got you in the situation you're in now. Stay away from them. But because of me putting myself in that gang, there's only one way in the gang and one way out. So there's no way you can't just walk away from a gang. I've done too much crime. Like I've earned all these patches on me. So when they start catching wind that something's wrong with Firecracker, a homeboy said, "Hey man, they're gonna come kill you." And I was saying, "Well, I don't know why." I was like, "Man, I don't want to commit crimes no more. Like I want to become a father to my family." Like I couldn't understand their mentality as like I've given you guys 25 years of my life. I didn't snitch on none of you. I didn't tell on none of you. I took all the charges. And now at the end, when I'm asking you guys to just let me leave so I can become a father, so I can become an asset to the community, so I can become a son, so I can come back to my family. When I told the gang I no longer wanted to commit crimes no more, they put an SOS on me. So it's like I was so hurt and I was so lost that I didn't do anything against the gang. I did everything you guys asked me to do, all the way up to catching a life sentence. And now I beat a life sentence, not telling on you, trusting God. And now I come to you and asking you guys, I want to walk away. Then you put an SOS on me. And then I didn't put myself in the box at that time, but I ended up getting jumped by 5 individuals. I ended up getting stabbed 4 times, once in the head, two in the back, and once in the chest. They put me in the ICU. I went into the box, and by the grace of God, that's why I say I seen God hand in my entire life. I seen God everywhere. Like not being born, my mom in the streets raising me, being shot, being stabbed 4 times, getting a life sentence. Like God had favor on my life. Like God loved me before I even knew him. Like I thank God that he loved me yet when I was a sinner. How much more he loves me now, right? Like I thank God that God never leaves me, never forsakes me. In Hebrews it says that there's ministering angels come to minister to those that will what? That will come to salvation. Like his Bible says that there's angels that camp around the anointed one. See, God knows the beginning and God knows the end. God knew that in my mess, in my trouble, that eventually I was going to come to my senses, just like the prodigal son in the pig slop. He came to his senses and he ran to the Father. See, that's what I did and didn't even know I was doing that. Didn't even know that I was acting out things in the Bible. Didn't know. And then when I went to the gang and said, hey, I don't want to do those crimes no more. I just beat a life sentence. I've given you my whole life. I'm asking to let me go be a father to my son. Let me just go be a member to society. I don't want to do them more. They jumped me and stabbed me 4 times and they tried to kill me. And I couldn't understand. I've given you guys my whole life, and at the end, you threw me away like garbage. So that's why I never, at that point, I still didn't understand the love because I didn't understand the love of the Father. So now that I know the love of the Father, looking for love in all the wrong places, you're never going to fulfill that love because that love can only come from God. So I was like, man, so I put myself in PC. It's called protective custody. So for 48 months and 12 days, I sat in a cell evaluating my life and what I'm going to do with this new chance that I know came from God. And I know it's only the grace of God that why I'm alive today. I know it's the grace of God why I'm out of prison today. So I spent a lot of time evaluating my life and getting a relationship with God, praying to God every day, really getting to know God. You know, God never spoke to me. There was no great light. I just know that those 48 months and 12 days of sitting in a cell by myself in isolation, I spent a lot of time talking to God, a lot of talk, a lot of crying, a lot of self-evaluation and what I'm going to do with this new life that I know God's now giving me a second chance. And now what am I going to do with it? But I have fear. I have anxiety. I've never had a job. At 12 years old, I sold drugs. At 30, I caught life. I've never had a paycheck. I can't read a tape measure. I'm tattooed from head to toe. I got 37 felonies. So all this anxiety, fear is walking in, but I'm still talking to God like, okay, Bryan, why do you have fear and anxiety? Like, you had a life sentence. Now you're not. Yeah, but you have no job skill. You have no education. You can't even read. Like, what are you gonna do for a job? So, like, I'm wrestling by myself, and I believe like you ever read Romans 7 where like Paul says, I want to do good, but evil is right there. It's like, but my spirit man is at war with my flesh man. Like I was at war. I didn't even know why I was at war, but I realized it's a spiritual warfare that we don't fight against flesh and blood. We fight against principalities. The devil was mad that I didn't turn back to the gang. I turned to God. So they're fighting against him. So I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? I got anxiety. So, by the grace of God, I get ready to get out about 6 months. And I call my classification officer on a 62. She calls me into her office. I was like, hey, I'm getting out in 6 months and I need to go to a place that's going to change everything about me. She's looking at me. She's looking at my record that's like this thick. She's like, well, where do you want to go? I said, well, that's your job. She's like, I said, but I need to go to a faith base, a place that's going to talk about God. And she's like, looking at me like I'm talking gibberish, like I was speaking Chinese. Like she couldn't believe what was coming out of my mouth. Most of the time I got out of prison, I went right back to the gang. Like I gave me my bus ticket, I'm going right back to the gang lab. And she's seen that on my jacket. It shows when you've been in prison 3 times and you always go right back to St. Petersburg, Florida. Like, well, where would you like to go? I'm like, I don't know, but I don't want to go back to Florida because my gang is prominent in Florida. So can we find a place that I don't want to go back there, but I have no family, I have no friends, I have no money, I have nothing but this prison ID. See, I keep this prison ID because this is my map. Anytime I feel like life gets too tough or I can't take it no more, I look over here and I'm like, Bryan, you were never getting out of prison. And I keep that date. My date was 9989. And that was my EOS date was 9989. That was the day I was getting out of prison. 9989. I don't even know what date that is. That's not even a feasible date. But I keep my prison ID wherever I go because it's a reminder of my map of where I was and what Jesus brought me from. Like the paralyzed man. He said, now get up and walk and take your map. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if the man walked around with his mat, but I walk around with my prison ID, so I never forget the testimony of what Jesus did. Because society threw me in a hole and threw away the hole. But God said the bottom of that hole was a trap door, and that was Jesus Christ. So let me out of that. So I'm saying, hey, where can I go? She's like, okay. So we got on the computer, and I'm looking up programs that are faith-based, that talk about God and I came across the New Orleans mission. And it said the first thing we teach you is the gospel of Jesus Christ. I did not know that Jesus Christ was God. I remember my mom saying something about Jesus Christ, so I knew he had something to do with God. I didn't know he was God. I thought he was just some guy in the Bible that God used to get things done. Like I've heard the gospel, just didn't really understand it. But I've heard that he died on the cross. I do your sins, they were all sin. Like just hearing it in passing, but never really paying no attention. But all those things are coming back. Like my mom saying this, my mom saying that, like catching that my mom's always been talking about God to me. I was just so blinded by the truth that I didn't understand what my mom was sowing into my life. But sometimes I'll be reading, I'm like, man, my mom told me that story 20 years ago, but never pay attention. You see how God says, I will bring it to your remembrance in due time. So John 14:26 says, if you put it in, I will bring it out, as long as the spirit is not counterfeit. So I do like that my mom was putting it in, and then God was putting it back out in my time of trouble. So I called the New Orleans mission and I said, hey, I would like to join your year-long discipleship program. She's like, okay, well, just get here. I said, hold on. I'm coming from Florida to New Orleans on a bus with no money, no family, with nothing but a prison ID and clothes. She's like, that's okay. We take everybody. I'm like, no, 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 you don't understand. Wait till you see my face. Wait till you see my jacket. See, I'm already judging myself. And thank God, God says I don't judge by appearance, but I judge your heart. So I thank God that God used good people here at the mission that are servants of God, and they don't look at the outward appearance. They really love God and they love God's people. So I didn't know nothing about that. I didn't know about no discipleship. I didn't know about being a servant. I didn't know about having God. So I didn't know any of that stuff. I just know I needed to get somewhere that was going to tell me about God. I wanted more of God. And I knew if I went to a place to talk about God, prayerfully, that was going to be a place that was going to change everything about me. And she said, just get here. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm really going to take a chance. I'm going someplace where I have no idea where I'm going. Everything I know is Florida. So really walking by faith, not by sight. Didn't even know those verses, right? So I got on the bus and it was the two scariest days of my life. I remember crying on the bus, saying, God, please let this be the place that change everything about me. And I'm crying and I'm crying. And I get off the bus, and as I'm walking, there's a chaplain from the chaplain New Orleans Mission. He's walking towards me, and he said, Brian. And I said, yeah. And he gave me a hug. Let me tell you, no male has ever given me a hug in my whole life. It was awkward. It was uncomfortable. I'm like, why is this guy freaking hugging me? Like, men don't hug. Like he really gave me like a genuine hug. Not like a homeboy hug. Like he really gave me like a father's hug. And it was awkward, it was uncomfortable, and I did not like it. And like, why is this guy freaking hugging me, man? So I'm like almost like pushing him away, and I'm walking. And let me tell you, he's almost skipping. Like he has this joy that I've never even witnessed in my whole life. And I said, man, you're sure a happy guy. He said, well, I got Jesus. I'm thinking in my mind, man, you got more than Jesus, bro. Something's wrong with this dude, man. I was like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm a graduate. Now I'm a pastor. Now I'm the chaplain here. I'm like, you graduated this program? He's like, yeah. And he gave me like his little testimony. And I was like, wait a minute. So you're a graduate and you preach the gospel? This program? I was like, yeah. I was like, man, you're sure happy. He's like, I was like, well, how do I get that? I said, how do I get what you have? And he called it unspeakable joy. Man, I don't even know what that, I couldn't even comprehend the word unspeakable joy. My mind couldn't even comprehend what this man was saying, this unspeakable joy and this smile on his face. And he felt like, it looked like he had no cares in the world. Like he was just this happy-go-lucky guy. I just left hell. Like I just left being stabbed 4 times, a life sentence. This guy's not living in a reality world. Like I'm telling myself all this, but he has something that I'm yearning for. Like the spirit inside me is like, man, like I want what this guy has. And he said, man, pray and read your Bible. I said, so if I pray, which I've been doing for 4 years, and I read my Bible, I'm gonna get this unspeakable joy that you talk about. He said, yeah. I said, when's it happen? He said, instantly. You instantly ask God to come into your heart and live in you. You have an unspeakable joy that he said, a peace that exceeds all of your understanding. I was like, I don't even know what peace means. My life was chaos and mayhem and misery and drug addiction and violence. Like this guy is not in reality, but you know what? He has something that I need. I desperately need what this guy has. And if he's telling me how to do it, I'm going to listen because I listen to a lot of dumb people in the world and they got me in a prison cell. I'm listening to this guy right here. This guy's got something that I'm yearning for. So I went upstairs and they gave me a Bible and I had no idea what I was looking at. And I came downstairs and he said, start in the book of John. I said, okay. So I read it and I read it. And for 2 months, from sun up to sundown, I read the Bible. I went to every small group. I went to every Bible study. I asked questions. I took notes. I stayed in the chapel. I didn't have a job. I stayed in the chapel listening to pastors. I stayed in godly counsel. In about 2 months, I got frustrated. I got angry at God. And I remember crying. And I'm like, I'm at the point of packing my stuff and going back to gangbanging because it's not happening. I still feel like I'm in bondage. I still feel like I'm in prison, but now instead of physically, I'm mentally bounded in my mind. I have so much self-hatred, so much unforgiveness. I hate looking at the man in the mirror. I don't even walk by the mirror. I walk in the mirror, and I'm free from prison, but I'm still in bondage in my mind. Like I have anger, bitterness, resentment. Like I have nightmares. I can't stand the person. Now I'm right back into being free from prison, reading the Bible every day, and I have a suicidal spirit. I'm literally 2 seconds from packing my stuff and getting on a bus and going back to Florida and going back to what I know, going back to what gave me comfort, the drugs, the women, the gambling, all that stuff, that momentary happiness that I know for a fact is never gonna last. I know firsthand where that lifestyle is gonna lead me, but yet I'm still drawn going back to that lifestyle because this is not working. At least if I go get drunk and do drugs, I don't gotta deal with myself no more. And I'm telling you, I'm crying and I'm 2 seconds and I'm like, man. God, I don't understand none of this. Like your Bible says, come to me all you're weary, I will give you rest. My burdens are light, my yoke is easy. Like in Matthew 11:28, like I'm reading the Bible, like I see it. It do- I'm not getting it. I understand it. I read it. I don't understand how to apply it. And I'm crying. And let me tell you, Mark comes walking by and he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, Brother Brian, why are you crying? I said, Mark, I don't understand it. It says, God forgives me. He said, I said, the Bible says that God forgives you. He said he throws your sins in the sea of forgetfulness. He says he makes you as white as snow. I said, I'm reading it. But the person they're talking about is not me. I've done unspeakable crimes to be a gang member. I've done things that I have nightmares for. I did drugs to eliminate some of those things. And I'm miserable and I'm suicidal and I want to die. And the person, the sins they forgiven for is not me. The person in the Bible that Jesus died for wasn't me. He didn't die for somebody like me. And I want to leave, and I want to die. And the Bible is not giving me comfort. It's not giving me what I see this joy around me. I see this peace, and I hear these testimonies of God changing their lives and God restoring their families. And the pastor here was a graduate from here. I'm witnessing all this, and it's not happening for me. And I'm crying so hard. And I remember what Mark said. He said, Brian, I want you to close your eyes right now. He said, I want you to ask God to open up the eyes of your understanding to receive his love and to receive his forgiveness. And I'm telling you, man, I prayed that prayer so hard because I was so angry and so bitter that I just wanted to die. And I was no longer in prison. I was no longer addicted to drugs. Like I was free, but I was still in bondage in my mind. And I prayed that prayer through snot and bubble snot and tears, crying. And he said, now continue to read now that you've really asked God for his love and ask God for his forgiveness and ask God to come and dwell in you. And that God says he's just to forgive. If you just repent, call on the name of the Lord and really believe that he rose and died again. You're not saying it with your mouth. He said you say it with your heart, Brian, and say it with conviction. Saying, God, that I'm sorry that I sinned against the holy God. Please forgive me that I'm going one way and now I'm going another way. And ask God to open up the eyes of your understanding to fill you with the fire of the Holy Spirit. And I prayed that prayer and I started reading and I kept on reading and I kept on reading. And I came across a verse in the Bible, October 6th, that changed my life. It was 1 Timothy 1:13. It says, once I was a blasphemer, I was a persecutor, and I was a violent man, but I obtained mercy because I did it ignorantly and unbelief. I understood that verse. I didn't understand Paul's life at that time, but I understand that I did it in ignorance and unbelief. It wasn't that God said it was okay that you did it. It was like now that you know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And when the Son makes you free, you're free indeed. And the chains that you're hanging on to, I have came to set the captives free. And if you believe that I died for every single sin you've ever done, that you did it without knowing me, I'm just to forgive. Confess with your mouth, believe with your heart, right? Romans 10:9, right? Confess with your mouth, believe with your heart that he died and rose again. He said, I'm just to forgive you. And I'm telling you, I felt this weight of this shame and this guilt and this self-hatred. I literally felt this weight lift on me, and I felt the Holy Spirit come. I felt this peace. I felt this calmness coming past me, and all the anxieties and all the worries for that moment, like I felt calmness for the first time. Like all the thoughts and the anxiety and the cloudiness, it just went away. And I had this peace for the first time in my whole life. I got up and like I woke up with a joy. I woke up with this joy, the Lord, that I've never felt before. And for the first time in my life, I really felt like I was loved.